All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Moonhawk Studios Presents, and of course, I am your host, Mac Paladin, and the rumors of my demise were greatly exaggerated, as always. Joining me in the studio, of course, is my good friend and co-host, Adam.
I mean, given how last week worked out, I don't think it was all that exaggerated.
Yes, but I've come back to life because, as it turns out, necromancy is now legal.
Good to know.
Of course, we got Kevin back this week.
Yeah, I'm back from Memphis, Tennessee, ladies and gentlemen.
Petty fans in the house.
I hear the sheep screaming in the distance.
No, that's just Chippy. Besides, we need to save that space for the real Shep of this interview. The Golics.
Oh boy, yes, I am in fact here.
It's a long-running joke between you and what is it?
Dragon Lord, yes.
Yes. Bep, he's a Shep. And of course, returning to our show gloriously is Parias.
Yeah, something like that. So hi. Rumors of my demise have been only slightly exaggerated.
We're doing our best. Now, of course, I'm going to remind everybody to make sure you have the show on in the background so that we increase our probability of appearing on the front page. Mute the tab, not the stream. All right, let's get down to the facts and figures of this whole shenanigans and charade here. Adam, why don't you start us off with the news?
Well, I guess my news is, I guess it's checkup time around here.
Oh.
In that, well, I got to take my cat to the vet on Friday. It's time for his checkup because he is out of flea medication.
Ooh.
Oh boy, yeah.
Got to get that advantage.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, before he has another outbreak. Yeah, he's had trouble with fleas over the years. He is indeed a cat. So, I do have like some over-the-counter stuff, but it's not the usual medicine. More in case of fleas, use this kind of deal.
In case of fleas, break glass.
Wow.
I'm like, have you ever dealt with fleas?
Yes.
Fleas?
Yeah, fleas kind of suck.
Yes, they do. I'm like,
yeah.
And let's see. Now, I have to go to the doctor, I'm looking to go to the doctor to see about my throat note here, which is fairly swollen right now, but it is going down, but it's more making sure that everything's fine, except for the fact that the doctor's office isn't apparently understanding my insurance, because
Oh boy.
yeah, I'm telling you it's from this one thing, and they're like, is it from this similar but not the same thing? I'm gonna have to go down there and get this situated.
Oh
Because-
goody.
Well, it's like I'm gonna be damned if I'm gonna pay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like I'm not. It's like I'm not paying out of pocket for this. Not when they say that they cover. So, but if they, like I said, as I said in my show, I'm going to be adulting this week, and unrelated, but my mother is getting a checkup tomorrow because she's in her 70s, and that's just what you do in your 70s apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Indeed.
anyway,
Technically.
so that's my news.
All right. Kevin, what's cooking?
Well, I have a story to tell, of course, because last week I spent a little time in the city of Memphis, Tennessee, for for my first anime convention, the Anime Blues Con, at the Renaissance Convention Center in downtown. It was a nice experience. Good, solid, I guess mid-level convention. Not not big, but not small at the same time. Got some autograph material from the wonderful Miss Stephanie Young Brem, who's of course the voice of Robin on One Piece, among others. Got to go to her panel. Should also know that she and her husband are pretty good at the jazz music. I should note that. Also visited the Great Big Bass Pro Shops Pyramid, which a good friend of which I guess I could say is a good friend of mine now. Cheekily referred to it as Redneck Mecca.
Sponsored by Cabela's, no doubt.
It's actually Bass Pro Shops is a rival of Cabela's, so I don't know if that would be that would like that. Yeah, but yeah, it's basically a giant. It's basically the pyramid used to be a basketball arena. It actually was the first home for the Memphis Grizzlies before they moved to FedEx Forum, which, funny enough, I found out was actually off of Beale Street. Which is interesting, but they took the arena and they basically put in a giant, basically a pond, and there's fish all over the place, like fish everywhere. There's fish in that pond in the main arena. There's an aquarium, like right up against the wall, and there's another aquarium inside of the restaurant in this place. There's a bowling alley in there, and then if you get on one of the largest freestanding elevators in the world, you can go up to I think it's about 200 or so room hotel called the Big Cypress Lodge, where for $200 a night you can actually stay in this place. And the rooms don't look at the outside, by the way; they look inside towards the store. So that's a thing. And then up top there's an observation deck, and let it be known that we did not go up that elevator because that is way too high for all of us.
I'd like to share one little bit of information about Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Cabela's was acquired by Bass Pro Shops in 2017, which is why I made the joke. They're not rivals. Okay. They're the same company now.
Okay. I totally forgot about that because I remember.
I'm saying if you're going to Memphis and you're talking about Bass Pro Shops, you got to know this information, otherwise there will be war.
Well, it's Bass Pro Shops and Ducks Unlimited, so that's what that's what's on the pyramid. It's not Cabela, so that's why I forgot that. But yeah, I went to the pyramid. I went to walk down Beale Street up and down. I went to the Memphis Zoo, and I had myself a time at an anime convention. So all in all, I had a very good weekend.
Nice.
And
sounds like it.
Yeah, hopefully I'll get to go back next year, or at least some other convention down the line, because it was a fun time. No question about that.
All right. Well, at least somebody had a fun time this past week. Petty fan?
Yeah.
You're up next.
I'm sorry. I was actually going to ask if I could save my stuff to the end, because I probably had the most stuff this week. But
oh, no, you don't. I assure you, Varias, and I will probably dwarf you. It's just not all good. We're not going to end on a high note. That's all.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, anyway, Petty, go ahead.
Petty, what's up?
It's been fairly quiet here, thankfully. Over the past week, I had to get some new bolts for my chair because a couple of them broke, and then a couple of them, I guess, don't know if they just kind of backed their way out and got lost or what happened there, but yay, bolts. And not a whole lot to really report. It's just been quiet and hot. Thankfully, we got the new air conditioner.
Oh boy. All right. Galix, what's cooking?
Not too much here. The weather's been getting warmer, and hopefully it doesn't get too much like the heat wave that some other places are having.
Yeah, it's hot down here in Atlanta, and it was extremely hot in Memphis the last 2 days, and yeah, you can feel it. Hopefully it doesn't get too hot up there, but yeah. Anyway,
Let's see. Not too much interesting in video games today, but I got the cards for my Diablo-Mon deck for Digimon card game assembled, and I got the cards and assembled the first version of the deck
Oh,
because there are some that I'm not sure how many of which version I'm going to be putting into it. And I'm probably going to be later on in this episode trying to finish off Super Robot Wars 30's main story.
ah,
Oh, and I got my new headphones, so I don't have to worry about them fucking. I think it's because my old ones. Maybe it was because I used them so shortly after getting them. Had a very tangly cord.
Hmm.
Like the back and forth was really built into the cord from when they'd been wrapped up in the
Hmm.
packaging, so I had to straighten them out, and the best way to do that is basically to untwist them. And the best way to do that is basically to like put the headset on the floor and pull up on the thing and let it spin until it's free. And it occurred to me when I started having connections with them that that was probably because the cords had some of the wires inside the cord had come loose
Hmm.
and were not properly connected.
ah.
So with this one, I I laid it out flat for a while before I even plugged it in. And that seems to have made the wires less inclined to kink, so that's good. And I think that's it.
Uh, yeah, we'll talk a little more about our stumbling.
Oh
through,
yes, yeah, and we are still doing the Sunday thing. We're going back and forth on the how much progress are we making enough progress to keep it sustainable, but I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah, we may take a break 10 episodes into this series and do something else just to keep it interesting. But yeah, the SD Gundam. It's not that it's going badly. It's that we've figured out this scenario after spending at least an episode and a half on it.
Yeah, they gave, I'm pretty sure they gave us the goal to do the thing, but we didn't understand it.
It was too subtle.
And also, we still have not figured out the mechanic that allegedly allows you to deploy your original characters in addition to,
Right.
the ones assigned based on the scenario,
Yeah.
which is, again, we're getting by without it, but.
Yeah, I think it would be a lot easier if we could deploy them around the base.
Mm-hmm. And some of it's just this is an older game, so some of the game flow is different from similar games that I'm used to. Like this one seems to actually be wanting you to pop back in the ship all the goddamn time to refill your energy because most people have an attack or two that takes like half their energy.
Yeah, like if this was one of the Langrisser games, then simply being in proximity to your general actually sometimes replenishes the health of your troops.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't.
And that
have,
might be
you
a
don't
thing
have to,
later on, but
you don't have to dock inside your general, which would be weird.
a little bit, yeah.
All right. So now the moment y'all been waiting for, Varius is back.
Indeed. So, hi everyone. I have been absentee for a little bit. What started as a 2-week vacation from streaming turned into a convalescence.
Yeah.
So, I had a really nasty fall, and I've been the ER twice. I've had to do a bunch of follow-ups with doctors, and there's a lot of like speculation and adjustments to my treatments because the thing that I was diagnosed with was part of my disability and maybe something else entirely. So yay!
Hmm.
So lots of song and dance and polish and poop and whatever the hell.
Mm-hmm.
Also, she's playing Overwatch.
Yes, I am. I'm seeing how my arms hold up right now because I haven't been able to do anything, games or otherwise.
Which will probably be a large determining factor on the precise timing of your return officially to streaming on your
Yeah.
own. do you have any additional news to report? Or
No, I think that's about it at the moment.
all right, so then I'll use that as a segue into my bit, of course. So the fall took place. We've had this ongoing saga with the complex, and as much as I'd like to ascribe malicious intent to this, it's really not. I think it's just bad timing. I think what happened was the complex got it into their heads that they could finally get a hold of some of that PPP money, and so all of a sudden now they're doing inspections again and trying to right several of the wrongs, whereas during the bulk of the pandemic they didn't respond to anything other than as mandated by Arizona revised statutes. So if your air conditioner went out in the summertime, they had to respond within 24 hours, COVID or no. If your water...
Because otherwise you'll die because you're living in Arizona.
Yeah, if a pipe burst inside the wall, they kind of had to do something about that. You know?
Yeah.
Anything short of that, building burning to the ground, they weren't coming out. Hey, some of my vinyl on the floor is peeling up. Can you fix that? 3 years later, no response. That kind of thing. So that's what we've been dealing with. So we were setting up for the bug spraying, which this was more advanced. They actually had to use a vertical sprayer inside the cabinets to try to kill the roach problem once and for all. And so we had to basically evacuate the entire contents of our kitchen and bathrooms. Which was a nightmare because we basically have an entire household worth of stuff in just those 3 locations.
Yeah.
And it all was on the porch in plastic bags. And so we went to try to put it back in. Let's just say that I am partially disabled and not able to reinstall an entire kitchen drawer in a timely fashion. And Verizon was moving a little faster than my old ass is capable of.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, possibly related to what's going on with her new recent misdiagnosis revelation, she took a sideways tumble onto the patio while holding an entire drawer full of God knows what. I think it was silverware.
Ooh. Oh.
Yeah, it was silverware, and then I fell on a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, so I was stressed, and then I've been working really long hours trying to make up some missed payments because when this kind of stuff goes down, I don't react well to these kinds of disruptions in my schedule. It usually puts me out of commission for about 4 or 5 days at a time after the event. And then there's all the lost time leading up to the event. So that's all earning time that I'm just basically a dead stick. I can't do artwork. I'm too anxious to really play video games. Podcasting becomes a questionable activity. There's just a lot of stuff that went into it. So thanks to the extraordinarily unwarranted, I would say, based on my performance. I'm just going to say this outright. There was an unwarranted outpouring of support from my fans, showing their dedication for my work that I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully repay. One of our big fans, the Uncola Man, was able to contribute enough to not only keep us afloat for the last few weeks, and there are a few other people who I have not gotten permission to mention yet, but Uncola Man actually succeeded in acquiring a new XP Pen tablet monitor for me to replace the Wacom that the cats dive bombed and cracked in half.
Oh, there we go.
I tried to find the best I could for under $200, and he came through for us. So that's a big shout out for one of our fans, the Uncola Man. I appreciate you, buddy, wherever you are. And so I was able to get that. I moved my entire command center from the living room, which was a monumental undertaking in the first place back in 2020 when we set the whole thing up, back into my bedroom.
Yeah, but I was slightly less broken that first time around.
Right. And so that became problematic because she was in the middle of injury and diagnosis while I was trying to move this whole pile of
Yeah,
shit
so-
back into my room studio. Go ahead.
Right. So we employed my boyfriend for assistance.
Hmm.
And that's another. And that's
Yes,
another
we can
recent
talk about
development.
that.
Yeah, and that's another recent
Yes.
development is that she's entered into a new relationship in the.
Hey.
Yeah. So I have girlfriend primary and my nesting partner in the back room, and then I have boyfriend and girlfriend who live down the road.
Yep.
Polycule.
That's good.
Yes, a
Good for
polycule.
you.
So we finally been able to capitalize on the Tucson social life for Varias and Kelly, which will make things a lot nicer going forward because now they'll have something to do besides sit here and let me annoy them, and vice
Yeah.
versa. It's a two-way street.
Yeah. Just sit all the way down. If we die, we die.
Were you doing it in Texas?
No, it's something that I was telling Mac about, and that was like the end of it. And I'm like, yeah, that is 100% basically saying a thing without saying the thing.
Right, right. So yeah, there's been quite a bit going on this past week, but my command center is mostly rebuilt. I've got the gaming and streaming specifically boxes. You see, I actually have several boxes set up for several things. I'm sorry, we're going to run a little long on the news because there's a lot because we missed last week. But the rebuilding of the command center is actually pretty important because I made some key decisions about stuff that absolutely has to be in it. Hey, Alina. I've repositioned my DV cam, my quote unquote slightly old but pro grade Firewire camera that I've been using as a webcam. I set up both gaming boxes, my old one, which is barely hanging on by a thread, apparently, according to last week, and my new gaming box with I've got an i5 HP Elite series from 2011 that's actually plugging along pretty darn well. I did a test stream yesterday, and everything looks good. And then, of course, we completely rebuilt the network, which caused some snarling between me and Varias. Well, we
got it working.
We're both experts in the field, and we don't like to give ground to each other because, for me, it's as much aesthetic as it is technical. So I was like, no, I'm getting my goddamn ladder and I'm mounting this cable on the ceiling so that with screws, so that way it doesn't, it's not drooping all over the place. And I was real crusty about that. Because I was tucking cables away so that they're out of the way and that they're not draped across the floor and just.
Yeah, it was a hell of a thing.
Yeah. And so I've been feeling like daily heart palpitations because I'm not in the best of shape for this kind of activity right now. Between my own physical problems and everything else, I've just been, I've just really been feeling it. Let's just say that I've been feeling all 315 of my pounds, and I really need to get that down to about 270. To start feeling good again. So that's the next project. Now that we've got our lives mostly in order again, I'm going to start working on...
Yeah, mostly.
I'm going to work on starting to get my weight down. Because I literally, before the show, had to take... It's like, after all the work that we've done, I woke up and I started feeling like the heart palpitations, and I'm like, I'm going to take a nap for an hour so I don't have a stroke. And of course, having a lunch consisting of grilled hot dogs and coffee was probably not the best way to start the day.
Yeah, no. Probably not.
So I was just like, I'm feeling the palpitations. It's just like, all right, Doodles, Tippy, we're going to take a nap for a while. Jump on the bed. I need my comfort kitties. So, yeah. Yeah. So that's it for personal news. There's a little bit about streaming, of course. Final Fantasy had mixed results this past week, as I completely borked the scenario while grinding, of all things. I didn't lose to a boss. I died.
I mean, let's be fair. You made a significant amount of progress. It's just that then you died and hadn't saved since the beginning of the stream.
Yeah, so I lost all of the progress. I'm probably just going to end up redoing all of it on stream tomorrow because I didn't have any time to do what I said I was going to do. But yeah, so all that's set up, and I can return to playing Paladins properly on Mondays, and hopefully Overwatch on Saturdays, and we'll just see where it goes from there. All right. So now, for the moment all of you have been really waiting for, tonight's guest is a special friend. She is a cosplayer. She's into podcasting. She's done some voice acting, singing, all manner of artistic endeavors. I'd like to welcome Sabrina Pandora to the program.
Oh, hi.
So welcome aboard. So Sabrina, tell us all about yourself. Set the record straight. Who are you and what do you do?
I am a creator. I write. I don't really draw much. I do some painting. I've done a lot of cosplay. I've done burlesque. The singing part is funny because these days my voice is shot. So when you think singing, you're like, "What? Do you do Bryan Adams? I'm gonna run to you." But I live deep in the heart of Texas with my wife, my cat, and my 2 little dogs. And we try not to go outside because, much like Arizona, you might as well be walking on the sun.
Oh, God, yes.
And Sabrina is a hell of a bunny girl.
Oh, yes, and I always forget my own press. I also created the Bunny Hutch, which is a gathering of Playboy bunnies that we started at Dragon Con and was subsequently taken over by someone else afterward. And now that I live in Texas, we're in a smaller version out here once a year. But yes, I do spend a lot of time as the Queen Mother Bunny in the ears, cuffs, and tails. Well, tail singing.
All right. So I'm trying to decide which angle I want to go here next. What is you've been in cosplay for a while. What are some of your favorites? And also what are some of your favorite places to sort of present your costumes?
Oh, we lived in Atlanta for many years, so we were regulars at Dragon Con.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That was. There we go. That was a. Go ahead.
Kevin's representing for the Atlanta crowd.
Yeah, I live in a Hiram just west of Atlanta, so yeah, I live down here now.
But do go on. Sorry about that. I just was sharing that bit of information. That's why he was going, yeah.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Atlanta represent, yo. But Dragon Con was a great place to do cosplay because you would see a lot of creativity, a lot of people going all out because it was kind of the great mecca of cosplay, and it's grown so much now. I haven't been back for quite a few years, but still, it's because it's an annual event. People plan all year for it, so
Right.
it was definitely one of those places to see and be seen. And as far as me and my cosplays, I've definitely spent a lot of time in the tuxedo and tails with the top hat as Zatanna. And of course, I spend a lot of time in the bunny costume. And I think Of all of them, I think my favorite through the years has probably boiled down to doing Dr. Mrs. the Monarch from Adventure Gardens.
Yes. Yes.
Because, all you gotta do is talk like Harvey Firesteed, but look like Jackie O. It's very fun.
Yes. So
Although
true.
when I did my impression for Doc Hammer, he said, "Or Long Island."
Oh my god. So that brings us an interesting question. Aside from, of course, your original cosplay is based on the Playboy bunny motif. Um, do you have a preference? I know I've seen you do like superheroes. If I'm not mistaken, you've done Power Girl before. Do you have a preference towards comic
I have a,
books? Hmm?
I have a story in that vein. Yes, I do. I do prefer superheroes or superheroines or gender-bent superheroines.
Uh huh.
Um, the year that I first did Power Girl, I was actually near the restaurant in the Hyatt, and I was getting ready to take a break, and this woman comes running out of the restaurant, and she goes, "Oh my God, girl!" And when you're in costume, you try to be gracious to everyone, and so I'm like, "Yes, yeah, hi, how are you?" And she goes, "Oh my God, you look great. Can I get a picture with you?" I'm like, "Of course, of course." And then I look down, and I read her badge, and it's Amanda Connor.
Oh.
And so I was like, "Oh, well, yes, of course, you can get a picture." And that was how I met her and Jimmy Palmiotti, and both very sweet, very dear people, and we've been friends ever since. And that's maybe the highest compliment that you can get as a cosplayer is when someone who is so associated with the character, as Amanda was with the run of Power Girl, when they get excited to see you. That gives you some amazing props and really makes you feel good,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's like the ultimate validation right there.
right?
Hmm.
But yes, I have done a lot of superheroines. I have an entire closet full of costumes that don't really fit well after the pandemic. I suspect in this I am not alone.
Oh man. Looking at your Twitter. Speaking of comic books, I noticed that you've got a lot of pages listed there, and you talk about your writing. Now, how does that all intersect? What's going on there? You're a writer, and there's a lot of comics on your page. What's going on there?
Well, from a very young age, I was very inspired by comic books.
Hmm.
One might argue that it was escapism, or potentially it could be said that I just fell in love with the graphic storytelling art form and the fantasy of superheroics. As my boss calls it, uh, um, liberal means achieved through fascist ends.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a controversial statement, right?
Right. There you go.
Uh, but yes, I fell in love with comics at a very early age, and at first I read them, then I collected them, and eventually I realized that I wanted to produce them. But I also really didn't grasp how to go about that until much later in life. And these days, I I work as a production artist for Howard Chaykin, who is a 50-year veteran of the industry, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of apprenticing to him to learn the craft from him, while I'm producing my own comics. Currently, I have two of those in active production.
Okay. Tell us about the comics that you're producing. What are they all about?
Well, the primary line is Giant Girl Adventures, which is the story of a young woman who has the power to grow and shrink to seemingly unlimited degrees. But she's kind of a super slacker. She doesn't really want to necessarily be a noble and shining heroine so much as just kind of get by, do some treasure hunting, occasionally do stunt work, and she's kind of drifting through her career up until recently, where she gets dragged into a fantasy world, where she begins to see that there are greater stakes involved in being involved in such a field. And with that project, it gave me the freedom to create an entire world around this character, because I was very much inspired by some of the other creations that I've seen out there, where uh, every superhero world, uh, up until a certain point, very much resembles every other superhero.
Right.
And I wanted something that was a bit different and had a different tone and a different flavor to it. And that's what I strove for with this. And I'd like to think that we've succeeded, and that it has its own feel and its own milieu. And with that in mind, I'm currently working with another artist to begin the spin-off book that expands on that world with the Danger Team, because if you can possibly think of a dumber name for a superhero group than the Danger Team, I would like to hear it.
I think you got me there. You've worked with quite a few different artists on this. So in addition to apprenticing under Chaikin, you've also worked with quite a few different well-known artists in the field. If I remember correctly, didn't you also do a crossover with Spying with Lana by Sean Harrington at one point?
I did, and I actually was going to bring that one up, but it's still in it's still in the script finalization stage. But we have a second crossover planned, potentially for the to get started at the end of the summer. Sean Harrington is absolutely brilliant. He's funny. He's got great comedic timing. He draws incredibly sexy women, and just truly a joy to work with and collaborate with. And the initial offering that we did together as a crossover is still one of my best sellers on Amazon. So.
Yeah, I remember seeing I remember seeing some of it in the free version of Spying with Lana, and I was like, oh wow, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, he's again. He did all of the illustration for that issue, and like I said, just amazing layout, a sensibility, a great comedic timing, great comedic sensibilities. Sean Harrington is just plain brilliant. I cannot sing his praises enough. And I was very happy to collaborate with him. And actually, you can read the entire story on his crossover site.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it is out there in its entirety, and well worth a read, because it's very chuckle worthy.
Yeah, I would imagine. Now, what other artists have you had the opportunity to collaborate with, if you can talk about that?
Well, the initial run of Giant Girl issues 1 through 16 were done with an artist named Koen Leuten,
Uh-huh.
who's a Belgian artist, and he was not at all formally trained. He was just a very enthusiastic talent, and very imaginative, very creative. And eventually, he reached the point where the ongoing grind of doing a comic was just a bit too much for him, and he didn't care to do it any longer. So we parted ways there. I've had a few pinups here and there, but beyond that, after Kuhn left the book, there was a hiatus for a few years, and then Dee Fish came on board, and she expressed interest in the project, and we began collaborating. And she is just spectacular. She's been doing this for about 25 years now, and she is a remarkable talent, very skilled, and very intuitive as far as how her layouts and her camera work goes. And overall, I've been remarkably pleased with the work that we've produced together. And I dare say that when you get a good artist and you begin to collaborate with them, rather than trying to dictate to the artist, if you work with them and you collaborate with them, you're going to get a much better story out of it. And I definitely have experienced that with Dee, because good artwork elevates your writing.
Right.
Great artwork elevates the art and the writing. It just brings everything to a much higher level. And I dare say that the past 100 pages of the book have been the best that have been produced.
All right.
And moving forward, I'm working with an artist named Ed Smith
Okay.
on the Danger Team book, and we're currently in the process of generating the initial the first issue, because we're taking our time, and we're still establishing that relationship. He's learning what I'm looking for, and kind of guiding him through the sort of layouts that I'm looking for, showing him some new and different techniques, and we're moving through it together to take our time, because it again builds on the world that Giant Girl Adventures establishes, and gives it much more history and a lot more colorful characters. Which for me, that's the real joy of creating superhero comics, is the colorful characters that you get to play with.
Right.
You can create them, you can set them into motion, and lend them depth, because nobody expects the mighty Barbie to be a very interesting character, and then you get to surprise them.
Yeah, that is so true. All right, so what can you tell us about this new comic? Can you give us at least the elevator pitch on it so far?
Sure. The elevator pitch for the Danger Team is that a somewhat out of favor reporter gets an assignment from a major network because a new Danger Team is formed, and it's pointed out that there was a previous team with that same name, possibly one before that. And as he begins to unravel the mystery, he begins to discover that this is a repeating pattern throughout the course of recent history, and it's all pieces of the puzzle that are adding up, moving towards an actual overplot as he's getting the stories of the Danger Team's past. And as he investigates, the reader gets to, he's the reader's point of view, and he brings them along and shows them the history of this world that heretofore was unknown to them, more than that.
I see.
That's my elevator pitch. See, that's why I don't have a Netflix show.
It's always hard, because I run into the same problem when I'm working on, when people ask me, well, what is Starship Moonhawk about? And I'm like, what is Starship Moonhawk about? What isn't it about? And it's like, whoa, Mac, pare it down just a little bit there, buddy.
And you've always run the risk of, you start to explain, but in order to understand that, I have to explain this. In order for you to understand that, I have to explain this. And the story begins branching as you're trying to explain it, and 45 seconds in, you've lost your audience.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the key is that when you're pitching something like that, it's really about the hooks. It's not about doing a plot synopsis of the entire series. It's about what is the initial thing that is gonna sink the hooks into the reader and pull them in the first episode.
Right, exactly. Like I can tell people that Giant Girl Adventures is the story of a third generation superheroine who is a very flawed young woman who is trying to figure out what sort of hero that she wants to be while dealing with the mistakes that she makes along the way.
Right.
That's essentially correct, but it's also not very interesting.
Right.
As is on the surface.
Yeah. So you really got to go ahead. I'm sorry.
But to me, that's the most important part. Is if you can make the characters relatable to the audience, if they can see some of themselves in the character, that's what really will resonate with an audience and make it worth reading, rather than a shining paragon of perfection. It's nice, but it's not really something that we in our everyday lives of trying to string cables across the ceiling can really relate to.
I probably earned that one.
The example was there. I thought I'd take a shot at it.
There you go. So now, speaking of the leading by example, so you mentioned earlier that you're sort of apprenticing under the great Howard Chaykin. So what are some of the takeaways you've received from his tutelage?
Well, a lot of it is just learning basic comics layout. The very first page I worked on with him, he said, "There's a tangent there," and my first question was, "What's a tangent?" That's where you have lines that are parallel and they're intersecting with each other in such a way that they're blending together, and you're not having a distinction between the 2 points.
Right.
Hopefully I explained that correctly. Otherwise, he's going to come back and say, "Did you learn nothing?"
He's going to be like, "I listened to the podcast just to see if I was mentioned."
Somehow I dropped that. But
I think he's got bigger fish to fry. But
right, yes. But a lot of it is just learning panel composition and how to effectively tell a story graphically. Where do you put what do you put in the foreground? Where do you put the figures? What's going on in the background? How much detail is necessary? How little detail is necessary? When to obey the rules? When to break them? There are a lot of subtleties to graphic storytelling, in particularly in the comic book format, that he's been doing for decades. And when he points them out, sometimes it's something so simple that I say, "Oh, well, how do you know when to break the panel border here?" And he says, "I don't. I just decided that's what I'm going to do because I want this to be more dynamic." And how much do you break the panel border? Is it just the figure, or do you expand the figure to the point where they're going off the page itself? And again, it's all an aesthetic decision. He has the eye for it, but he is in the process of teaching me these things so that I'll have my own toolbox to use moving forward. And he actually works digitally these days. He draws the figures and the backgrounds on paper and scans them, and then it's to me to put the digital assembly together under his tutelage, because I put it together and then I submit it, and then he tells me, "Okay, this is what we're changing," and then I come back and say, "Okay, so why do we do that?" And then he explains, and gradually it's like having your teacher over your shoulder. Move this here, move this here, move this. Now, do you see why the page is better? Ah, that's true.
Right, right. So when it comes to scripting your comic books, do you do it in the screenplay format, or do you actually follow the comic book writing conventions? Because I know there's a vastly different technique for it.
I actually do follow a screenplay form. Um, it was direct. It was initially taught to me that way,
Hmm.
and that's the way that I do it. So that I've got a standardization. Any artist who's familiar with using the screenplay format will have very few questions. I would say no questions, but I don't know that I don't know that I've ever worked with an artist who didn't have a question or two after reading one of my pages and preparing to translate it.
Right.
But yes, definitely screenplay format. Um, it has been taught to me that all of the dialogue for a page should fit on an index card.
Right.
I overwrite pages on a regular basis though, so don't know that I necessarily adhere to that, but I was taught the right way.
I've got a pretty good instinct myself for when to find page breaks, and then when the artist challenges me on it, I'm usually able to say, okay, well, let's put it here so that there's a logical transition to the next page, and so on and so forth. Like I've got a blue pencil just for that purpose, and I've got a printed paper copy of the script, and I'm just like, okay, this is page 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and I'm just going through the script.
Clearly, the true solution is to go to Webtoons and just go, what are page divisions?
Ooh, you see, that's a bad right there. There's a controversy about Webtoons going on right now about some of their business practices. So
I'm not even talking about that. I'm not even sorry. I was using it in the genericized form. I know it's actually a specific app or whatever. I actually have a bit of a bone to pick with the endless vertical scrolling format outside of that, and that's what that was about.
go ahead.
I can see that too because oftentimes Dee will look at a page that I've overwritten, and when I say overwritten, I've tried to pack too much onto one page,
Right.
and she'll say, "Look, this isn't going to work. We have to break this page in half." And I never argue because if the artist tells me this isn't going to work on one page, listen, they're the ones who can envision, they're the ones who can translate the words into images on the page. And if they tell you this isn't going to fit, pay attention. But to my mind, it's a very, very different art form to be composing a page of a comic versus a big long scroll of comics.
Yeah.
They're two very different beasts, and I can certainly see your point there.
I'm not a giant fan of the infinite canvas myself. I know comics like Dresden Kodak and a few others have used it to great effect, and I'm not one of its fans.
Well, even then, flexible page size is still different than like infinite scrolling that's all designed to be read as like a literal scroll.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that we have taken advantage. We do Giant Girl Adventures and Danger Team. We design them to be printed.
Mm-hmm.
All of them are designed so that eventually the comic can be printed and read in dead tree format. However, because of the nature of the way our websites are set up, we can do a much longer scroll, should we desire it. And we have taken advantage of that on a few occasions, particularly if the page involved, because we're publishing once a week, sometimes we'll essentially do a double spread that much longer, but that's mostly because it would really be irritating to the webcomic reader if they came back the next week and, oh, well, this is like basically the last panel of the previous page. Now I really feel kind of robbed, and I'm a little bit angry as a reader. And I understand that. Both Dee and I do. And so we'll sometimes do basically the double spread because with a webcomic format, we can go as long as we want. Our width is controlled, but the length of the page can go on as long as we like.
Right. One thing that Varias and I have as an advantage is that we are both. I'll use a retail term. We're both four corners creators, in that we can handle all aspects of production, from the writing to the illustrating to the editing to the publication of it. So we have a kind of cheat when it comes to working with other artists.
I mean, yeah, a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I spent. Varias is still active in it. She has her own comics like Seal of the Guardian and the late lamented Mysteries of the Arcana.
Yeah.
Under her belt, but of course, my series Starship Moonhawk started as a novel series and then became a comic book that I was illustrating for online for what?
I don't even remember.
10 years? 9-10 years?
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, a hot minute.
Yeah, I started illustrating it in 97. And of course,
wow.
I used to draw comics on legal pads, and that's how I'd avoid having to have them bound later, is because they'd still be on the legal pad when I was done with them. All right, so let's cover one last facet here before we wrap up, and of course you're into podcasting as well. Tell us about your shows.
I am not actually a podcaster. In that, I have to just sadly I must correct you, and I don't actually do podcasting.
Oh.
Per se.
Where did I
I
get that
show
idea?
up if someone invites me. That's the extent of my podcast.
That's how I started.
That's it. While I'm more than happy to run my mouth at length and answer any number of questions, generally speaking, I don't have that much to say. So.
I see.
But yeah, now I've done a lot of writing in other venues, just nothing that I've particularly published, and a lot of it, honestly, is yeah. There's nothing like writing projects that you discover are never going to go anywhere. I think all of us can appreciate those, right?
Oh yeah.
I think my favorite was I wrote a 6-issue proposal for DC Comics, only to discover that DC doesn't accept submissions.
Right.
Which I discovered after I'd already written the 6-issue series. And okay, well, I guess that was good practice. Righto.
It reminds me of the time I did a portfolio review with them without really having a portfolio.
Did they send you to Neil Adams?
I wish. At least
The late great Neil Adams.
Yeah.
The late great Neil Adams. Yes,
At least
apparently
that would have been
getting
interesting.
your portfolio. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I said at least that would have been interesting.
Well, apparently getting your portfolio reviewed by Neil Adams was kind of a rite of passage, because he would be honest.
Oh yeah. Yes, I'm not going to go into great detail because it was literally just sitting down at a table with somebody outside the DC booth at San Diego Comic Con, and I just slapped a bunch of papers in front of them, and they were like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like,
Maybe.
Yeah.
Depends on what you have to say.
I am in no short supply when it comes to audacity. Varias will tell you.
But I think you need that as a writer. You have to be audacious.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be willing to step outside the boundaries of convention and take those big swings, because otherwise you're just boring.
Yeah, and the truth of the matter was that I wasn't really trying to get a job with DC or Marvel or any of that stuff. I was literally just, it was just a thing on a list of things. It's like, I'm going to do that because I can do so. You
It's
know,
like when you took up pole vaulting.
exactly.
Scratch that off the bucket list.
Oh man, Sabrina, it was wonderful talking to you, and I hope we can have you back on the show again when some of your new stuff is coming out, so we can talk more about this at length. I've really enjoyed our time together.
Thanks for having me, and I very much appreciate being a guest. By all means, catch up with the comic. I think you'll appreciate it.
Absolutely, definitely going to check that out. So, of course, everybody make sure to check out Giant Girl Adventures and Danger Team when that becomes available. Oh, I was going to ask you, do you use Drive-Thru or any major digital publishing house that we can refer people to?
At the moment, I have some of the issues up in the Apple Store.
Okay.
I'm in the process of. I just recovered a bunch of the files, and I'm in the process of overhauling them to assemble them into volumes that will be easier to read in larger arcs, and eventually they'll be available in hard copy format. But for currently, yeah, just the Apple Store. Nothing in Drive-Thru Comics as per yet. However, we're realistically about a year away from getting the big Giant Girl volume print.
Oh, okay.
And once we get it all done, and we've got the Kickstarter taken care of and all that, then we'll really be pushing much more strongly to get it in people's hands.
All right.
Literally.
All right. Well, that sounds exciting. Any
I'll
upcoming
keep you posted.
Yeah. Any upcoming appearances where people need to go and find you?
I will actually be at the Dallas Fan Expo this Saturday for a let's see, call it Reading Rainbow panel at Fan Expo Dallas.
Wow.
Which is a collection of LGBTQ creators.
Oh, exciting.
So this was actually a good warm up for that, and I have no idea what we'll be talking about then, but I suppose it'll have something to do with representation in comics, and of course, being in the alphabet myself a couple of times, my characters in my books also tend to be a reflection of that. So they are very inclusive.
Well, they say write what you know, right?
Yep, yeah, crazy thing. The big girl, she bisexual. Gosh, very crazy.
Well, again, you've been a delight, and I thank you for being with us. And of course, you are welcome to join us for our final roundtable discussion, where we'll be talking about entertainment news. I'm sure there'll be something relevant to your interests in there if you're interested in sticking around. So,
I do always have an opinion, unsurprisingly enough.
Excellent, excellent. All right, Adam, Kevin, take it away. You got the entertainment news. What's happening?
All right.
All right. So, God, where to start? Because there's quite a bit happening. I suppose we should address the deteriorating saga of Ezra Miller again.
Oh, dear God.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Because this just keeps getting...
It just keeps adding up. It keeps getting worse. It keeps
it keeps getting worse in new and interesting ways.
Did I not almost 3 weeks ago today ask, is Ezra Miller canceled yet?
Apparently not.
I think look, the reason why this probably why Warner Brothers is in a tough spot is because the Flash, the movie, is pretty much largely in the can at this point.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not like removing Amber Heard from
Yeah.
removing Amber Heard from Aquaman 2. It's the opposite problem.
Right. It's because Amber Heard plays a relatively minor character in the grand scheme of things in that movie. We're literally talking about the titular character of the movie here.
Yeah, if you wanted to replace Ezra Miller in the Flash, you'd have to say, also between movies, Barry Allen was hit on the head with a rock and got recast as Wally West or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's doubly a problem because, okay, so in case you don't know what Flashpoint is, it's not just another Flash movie or a standalone Flash movie. No, this is supposed to be the great DC EU rollback or reset or whatever the plan is.
The realigning retcon of Retribution. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Point is, this is supposed to be the keystone of their future plans, and it's being head up by an actor who's on the lam right now with, like, I don't know, a teenage hostage. Like, what the actual fuck is going on here?
She's not a teenager. She's of age at 18. But what we're talking about here is
people who are 18 are still teenagers. It's in the number.
Right.
Oh yeah, the original Flashpoint was specifically revolving around Barry Allen changing the course of history to save his son's life.
Mm.
Now, Crisis on Infinite Earths was the grander scaled thing.
Yeah.
Still, Flashpoint is still a universal mechanics level change thing that they could use to, for example, explain why they have 3 different actors playing the Joker or whatever.
Yeah.
Point is, but regarding the complaint here, it's involving a indigenous girl who she met when she was, how old was she? She was
14, I think.
Yeah.
And don't lean too far back.
I do need to correct something here. Both of their pronouns are they them.
Yeah, that I'm talking about. Yeah. Well, at the time, they were she.
Well,
at the time, that's.
It doesn't matter.
It
does not matter what they were at the time.
It doesn't matter.
It's retroactive.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's put that on the table right now.
I'm just going basically based upon the complaint involved with their parents. I'll say they for right now for what's there, but the complaint is that what the parents are saying is that Ezra, basically made her non-binary. I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't want to say that specific. That's what the parents are going with here. That's not me. That's the parents. Now, what the parents are alleging is that Ezra came in when they were 14 and Ezra was 22, and Ezra came in with LSD, with drugs, and was basically a extremely destructive influence on this individual. And they got a restraining order against Ezra, but you can't do a restraining order if you can't serve that restraining order because Ezra and this individual are basically nowhere to be found. Which is fun. I say very sarcastically.
The question before the panel right now is whether or not any actual crime has been committed, and as of yet, there is no evidence that any actual crime has been committed.
Right.
There's a lot of speculation.
Going on the run is not a good look, regardless.
Yeah, but
there's no real crime that's been really committed here, except that this is involving a lawsuit by I forgot the name, not Ezra, but the individual with them.
Right.
But they are indigenous, And so, yeah, but
It,
basically, this is all allegations based upon a complaint from their parents.
which they may actually have no legal standing to bring, but
Right. Because
so
the
it's
individual-
extraordinarily complicated.
Right, because to make it plain and to make it clear, this individual, whether it's genuine or whether Ezra is feeding her this, we don't really know here. But according to this individual, all
I think
of these
I think the more
allegations are
relevant
BS.
aspect is that any relationship that starts when a person is 14 and the other person is an adult is questionable.
I think the word
Yeah,
you're looking for is
it
hinky.
Yeah, it raises a lot of questions.
Yeah.
To put it mildly.
There's no way there's no winners in this situation. It doesn't look good no matter
Yes.
how you slice it.
Yes.
So, fast forward to the present, and apparently Ezra Miller is on the lam.
Right.
Yes,
Mhm.
on the run with this individual, avoiding this restraining order. Yes.
So you're saying the Flash is on the run?
Yes.
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 Like, and apparently taunting the police.
On Twitter.
Via memes.
Yeah.
Yes. via
Instagram.
memes.
Oh,
Or
okay.
Instagram. Yeah, Instagram. Yeah, via memes on Instagram. Yes.
Picture Twitter.
See,
Including-
so
Including
for
one that said
clarity,
find-
for
Yeah.
clarity's sake, for clarity's sake, why this is significant is that anytime a complaint is filed, the police are required by law, regardless of municipality. This is pretty universal across the United States, that they have to investigate said complaint before they can let it go. So the fact that they've both decided to go on the run is what's complicating this matter. So even if they've committed no actual crime, which is yet
Right.
to be determined, the police are unable to investigate it and close the book on it.
Okay, so just to be clear, the individual we're talking about here is 18-year-old Dakota Iron Eye.
Yes.
So, yeah, they are a climate active. They are an 18-year-old climate activist, and the complaint involved accuses Ezra of supplying Dakota with alcohol, marijuana, and LSD, and also accusing Ezra of using violence to hold sway over her.
Oh, and
Which, if
apparently
nothing else,
also,
the alcohol is an issue.
well, also apparently bringing a gun into the home.
Yeah, that too.
Which depending on the reservation is a big no-no because the Second Amendment doesn't
Yeah.
always apply on reservations.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to be, and just also
They
to
have
note,
their own tribal law, being a sovereign nation and all that.
Yeah, and
Right.
also to note the memes that are involved here, that we're talking about here, are all on Instagram. One says, "You cannot touch me. I am in another universe." Another has a picture, has a basically an image of someone vomiting, not crudely drawn. Says, "Me remembering how it was nice when I should have said, who the F do you think you're talking to?"
Wow.
Another has a meme featuring a guy holding flowers behind his back. The guy holding flowers has people. The flowers has headache, and then there's somebody else that's me. So yeah, he's very much of a taunting variety while being on the run, which is fun. And very much not making the lives of the publicity department of Warner Brothers Incorporated a living hell.
Yeah. There's so many pieces in play here that nobody knows what to do.
Yes.
So asking the big company to make a decision one way or the other, it's like all we know is $200 million is on the line here.
Yes. 200 million? Shoot. We're talking about billions here, considering that this is involving a major piece of the future of this entire goddamn studio. Because let's be goddamn clear, the future of this of Warner Brothers Discovery, one of them is a complete and total solo silo for DC. And well,
Yeah.
so yeah, there's a lot of high stakes involved with this film right here.
And
Yeah.
And kids, I know it's all fun and games for you to think it's funny to constantly say, let's just deepfake Grant Gustin into the film. But there's a lot of legal considerations that would make that impossible. Legal and logistical considerations that would make that impossible. This isn't like when what was his name, O'Day or O'Shea was replaced by Tig Notaro in that film, or the time that Kevin Spacey was replaced by Christopher Plummer. God rest his soul. This is way more complex than that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's just make the whole film out of CGI. I'm going to hit you in the face with my mug.
Anyway,
This isn't the Snyder Cut.
anyway, in well, certainly lighter news. In a lot of ways, the Joker 2 is apparently going to be a musical.
Is that factual?
Yeah.
Is it really factual that they're talking to Lady Gaga and it's going to be a musical?
Yes. Variety and Deadline both reporting the same thing. Yes.
Okay.
It is Lady Gaga's being in talks to play Harley Quinn, and apparently they're aiming to make Joker 2 a musical, which, okay, I guess it's going to be, I guess if you want to do something different.
Okay, it's now that it's been confirmed, I'm going to come out and say this. I'm here for this.
Hey, look, it's different.
This is a sequel to the Joaquin Phoenix one or whoever.
Wait, what was that?
Why do they keep hiring people to make comics movies who hate comics?
Oh God.
Yes, this. By the way, Alex. Yes, this is a sequel to the Joaquin Phoenix movie. Yes.
I would assume
Yeah,
also
that's what this is
starring
gonna be.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, it's Joaquin Phoenix, and apparently Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn in a musical sequel. Which sure.
I can kind of see this. I can kind of see this working on some twisted level.
Yeah.
And besides, the only person who actually involved in making of Joker who actually hated comics was Martin Scorsese, and he got reduced to a producer role in that capacity.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why he was bitter about that. Let's be brutally honest.
Probably.
Marty was disrespected on Joker, so
Yeah.
all's fair in love, war, and production. Oh man.
I mean, you're not wrong. All's fair in love and war and wizard chess.
Yeah. Anything else in entertainment news that we should be covering? I feel like we should move on to topic 3 at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get off on that. Let's move on. Next up.
Yep.
Next up is Netflix with the real life Squid Game.
Oh,
yes,
dear.
they're actually they are in a testament to they did not watch the show, or maybe they did. But
Okay, I have a lot to say about this. So
well, let's first know what's going on.
It's today's episode of Missing the Goddamn Point 101.
No, I'm gonna fucking throw down on this, on all of the people who've been throwing this. What the fuck did you expect Netflix to do?
I'm surprised.
Netflix was.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm surprised. I'm just saying it's kind of,
No, it's like, it's, going all missing the point. Like, did you forget who Netflix was? They are a fucking capitalist company that wants to make money. Of course they're going to fucking exploit the IP. It's what they are fucking created to do. So I don't know. Netflix
See, if I had to pick between the two, I'm gonna say I like Arisu in Wonderland better.
I'm like, that's not what I'm getting at. What I'm saying
I know.
Everyone is like, Netflix missed the point. No, they didn't care about the point. Like, do you think Netflix was really concerned about the anti-capitalist messages in Squid Game, given that they greenlit it in the first place? It's like,
Yeah, that's true.
it's like, spoiler alert, companies do this a lot. They use these kind of thematic elements a lot. I'm like, they're not
But
really
no.
worried about the fucking Marxist revolution.
Adam, where I was going with that was, as opposed to the complex games of Squid Game, I think sky lasers would be a simpler thing to pull off.
Okay, so let's actually talk about why
God.
Squid Game as a reality show is a bad idea.
Okay.
Not so much the messaging of the actual Squid Games, because you want to know why they're doing this? Do you know how many fucking views Mr. Beast's bootleg version got? 250 million.
Well,
I'm like, that means there is a fucking audience for this. That's kind of the point that a lot of very online socialists miss. It's
I'm actually totally in favor of the idea of a game show involving, in principle, adults doing like kid games and having to do actually do well at them when they may have forgotten the rules or forgotten the tricks.
And that's another thing. It's like they're not making an actual the Squid Games as it's seen in the show. It's like, no, they're not gathering 455 or 435, whatever the number, people.
Also,
and
they probably won't be killing anybody.
That's what I'm getting at. It's like, they're not lining them up to be deaded. Like it's like,
I think the proper term is unalived. If they were making a
Hunger Games reality show, they're not actually going to recreate the Hunger Games. It's like, that's a lot of liability to pay out.
Yes.
Amid myriad other legal problems.
Yes, and I don't know if you know
Don't pull out the Running Man just yet.
Yeah, but my point is, the whole, the meme about the torment nexus is not applicable here, because no, they're not building the torment nexus. They're not building the Squid Game. They're building a facsimile that's probably, is going to be safe to play. And that's actually kind of the problem with this idea as a reality show. And that is, Squid Game is, they were a bunch of children's games just ramped up to literal lethality. That was where the drama and tension lied. That's also where, where people misread the thinking. It's like, let me explain here. It's not, a lot of people didn't see this as, oh, what a horrible system, we need to change it. It's, I could have done this. I could have made it through this.
Yeah.
And that's what they're, and that's what, and that's what Netflix is tapping into.
Yeah.
I'm like, and, also keep in mind, Netflix kind of needs hits. Like, I don't,
badly,
we've certainly gone on about, their troubles recently. Like, although people are bringing up the money thing again, it's like, it's a reality show. Do you know how much a reality show costs? Not that much. Yep. I mean, that is why reality show just took over cable and continues to take it over.
Any of the expense you're making in sets and stuff like that, you're saving on, you don't actually have to pay, and prizes too. You're saving on the, these people don't actually get much money for acting in it.
Among other things. They don't have to pay writers and, deal with unions.
Too.
Like, that's another attractive draw of reality TV. Most of it's non-union. Just my point is, like, Netflix isn't Netflix spending however many millions of dollars on 2 Knives Out sequels.
Yeah.
What was that, 400 million or something like that?
Something like that's the kind of spending they need to cut out. Like, not, they're building a real version of, arguably their most popular franchise right now. Like, of course that was going to happen because, once again, it's like Netflix isn't really about the Marxist revolution. It's like, as some people would like to point out, yes, they are a capitalist company. So they're going to do a capitalism, even if that the thing advocating capitalism. It's not that they miss the point. It's like they literally do not care. Like, they're here to make some money, and if there's money to be made, they're going to do that. That, you can say that's a designation without a distinction. I'm like, I guess, but it's like, they're still going to do this because someone else did it before them and made money from it. It's, ironically enough, if they don't do this, it's leaving money on the table. I'm like,
God.
This is why I say capitalism persists. Because
Yes.
Also, people missing the point on Squid Game is not news at all.
no,
Look at all
no.
the goddamn number of people who were convinced it was about communism.
I'm like, it's an anti-capitalist message, but it's a very specific.
No, there were a lot of right-wing people who were very vocal about thinking that Squid Game is really about the problematic system in that is communism.
No, it's specifically
They're wrong.
about. Let me finish here. Like, it's very specifically about South Korean capitalism.
Yes.
And this has actually been an issue for a lot of years. You remember Gangnam Style? That was actually a protest song about the exact same thing. And that is the high amounts of borrowing and credit debt that a lot of South Koreans, a lot of young South Koreans are going through. And that's what this was a treatise on. And it's I get why that might have been lost, because once again, that is a very specifically South Korean anxiety. But it is there, and it's been a thing for quite a while, because Gangnam Style was what, about 10 years ago?
I'd say about that. Yep.
Yeah. So
maybe 12.
the fact that
2010.
Squid Game is still railing on the same issue, just adding in, let's be honest here, battle royale to the mix.
Yeah, it had to be.
I'm sorry,
It had to be 2000.
That was 2012.
Yeah. So it's still a fucking problem over there. And also to North Korea, no, they're not advocating your system of government or your economy either. Like, it's like, just keep in mind, a critique of capitalism or being anti-capitalist isn't necessarily being communist. I know you might think that, but there are, let's just say, a lot of branches of socialism, communism, and even anarchism.
Oh no, I know that. That literally wasn't the thing that I was saying. There were
No. That's for other people. Like,
I was gonna say, it's like when we brought up Gangnam Style, it oddly made its way into that weird Will Arnett, Brendan Fraser vehicle, The Nut Job, as the end credits music.
Yeah. I mean, remember, it was once the viral sensation.
Yeah.
But we saw it more as funny foreigners dancing or whatever. It's like,
yeah. Oh no, I'm sure most people who liked it never even bothered to look up what the lyrics meant.
I mean, I only know that because of Todd in the Shadows, his review. I'll be honest, but the overall point is, like, a lot of South Koreans are going through a crushing amount of credit card debt. Like, I know that that's also like an issue here, but it's like, I'm not sure how much it coalesces from one place or another. I just know that there's a lot of anxiety over it. Anyway, I think that's about all we have time for in terms of the news.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that puts us at a good spot. All right. So what do we got going on next week? Next week we have Chris Asik of Pixel Amusement and Ancient Games, host of the Ancient DOS Games Shovelware Diggers programs on YouTube, and a struggling solo indie developer. I like this. I like this style you've put on it on the notes here.
He wants to talk about his failed indie solo dev career, or struggling, or whatever, as well as his YouTube stuff. So
hey,
it,
it's all sauce for the goose, right?
Yeah.
All right, so that's it for this week's show. Again, thanks to our guest Sabrina Pandora for sticking it out with us and putting up with our shenanigans. And we'll see you all next week. And hopefully we'll have some information on some additional guests beyond June 22nd. We do have only 5 more shows after that in the season before we wrap up with episode 21. And then we will start our hiatus and planning for season 15. So until next time, I'm your host, Mac Paladin. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there, kids.